Poker is fun for everyone except my opponents who should have practiced avoidance. I'll stop right there.
I mean, is it maybe the worst rap you've ever heard in your entire life?
It's what white people think rap is.
And I guess 15 years ago, I guess so.
Yeah, I guess just after Eminum, Hey everybody, welcome to our humble little podcast, the Two Fish at the Table Poker Podcast. I am your co-host Sam, East Coast Sam on PokerStars.
And I am your other co-host Ben, Legend of Ben on PokerStars.
Yeah, and welcome to our episode 4, technically 5, but it's actually 4.
Yes.
Covering the 06 WSOP main event.
Not just the 06 main event, this is the biggest main event of all time to this day.
$12 million for first place. Second place, $6.1 million. And then third place, $4.1. I mean, wow.
After a record-setting 05, we had 06 rise to almost 8,800 players, which allowed for the top 12 finishers to become millionaires pre-tax.
Yep, $1.1 million even. Not even just like 1 million.
Yes.
1.1, you have the extra $100,000.
Yeah, if Matt Sal got 9th, he would have had an extra $500,000 to blow through in a few months. And this is also, I refer to as the first Gold Dynasty of poker.
I love it.
And also the last Gold Dynasty of poker. Not just for gold, though. For poker, the dynasty kind of came to its end here, because 07 we would see, there's a lot of history in 07 that would change the main event forever, but 06 was kind of the last year of the first poker boom.
Yeah, I mean this was the peak. We're not just talking about the numbers from the main event here. I mean, poker was huge. There were a bunch of television shows being made about it. Everybody was trying to get in on it. A bunch of movies in Hollywood.
You've had lots of startup poker websites trying to acquire players through very aggressive marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
Full Tilt, PokerStars, Party Poker, Ivy Poker, like Doyle's Room or something.
Doyle's Room. Yeah.
The list goes on and on. Now only a handful exist today, but this is kind of, again, the height of that poker wave for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously poker comes back a few years after 06 with the rise of streaming and so on. But this was before streaming. This was. Online poker was still around back then, but streaming on Twitch and on YouTube really sort of brought new life to the game in a sense. We have that, before that era here, sort of a pre-internet era, so to speak.
Yes.
And it's just sort of fascinating to watch. I mean, we'll get into the nitty-gritty in terms of the 06 main event, but there's one obvious reason why I do love this event so much, but there's also a lot of other reasons.
Is it Binger? Is it Wasika?
It is Binger and Wasika, totally. Dan Nassif also.
I mean, this is amazing characters, amazing poker players. Doug Kim, Richard Lee. These guys are like so entertaining.
Oh yeah.
And just to make sure our sarcasm is not being disguised poorly, I did not think very highly of this final table.
I liked Richard Lee.
I
thought he had a couple moments.
He had the most screen time, like meaningful screen time besides Cunningham and Gold. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised you say that, but
yeah, I thought of the segment with his grandson was kind of cute.
I agree, but I think this is, again, one of my least favorite final table rosters of the years we've discussed so far.
And his voice. I mean, Richard Lee's voice, he has one of the greatest Southern accents of all time. You can just taste the beef brisket and hush puppies falling out of his mouth. I mean, just incredible. But, yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, we did have some good talent. We had, Wasika won the Heads Up Championship in 07. Bingers made some cashes.
No, I'm not denying their poker prowess. I'm just discussing their screen presence in the 06 main event coverage.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into this as time goes on. I mean, I do agree with you that with one obvious exception, the 06 final table was sort of lacking in personality. But I think I really did like this year. I thought we got a lot of, beside Mr. Gold, we have a lot of great personalities.
I agree, but I almost felt as if because the field was so big, the coverage kind of diluted itself, and it was more of a quantity over quality kind of focus overall from a directorial standpoint. I think this is especially apparent in the early episodes.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
don't know.
and by virtue of us not meeting some of these faces early on,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of show up so late that there's no time left to really develop them and to make you kind of get behind them as players.
Yeah, that's a case for a couple of them, I think. I mean, I do think we got Dimitri Nobles early on. We have Lee Force sort of semi-early on.
I mean, there's people along the way, absolutely, that are
Mhm.
that are entertaining to watch, but I think collectively speaking, this main event, both in under a close microscope and looking back 15 years later, I think
Mhm.
this one is lacking in certain aspects.
I don't know if I entirely agree with you. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll
Dive
go through
into
it and we'll see
Yeah,
we'll see who'll be convinced.
of course.
But the '06 main event, again, kind of the last year of what I like to call classic WSOP main event
Yep.
on ESPN,
Mhm.
because '07 they would change up substantially. We'll obviously cover that more in '07, but in '06 we had the introduction of the, if you ask me, very pointless KFC snacker cam, which really had been, that camera type had been used in years past. It just was given a lame product placement tie-in.
Yep.
With one exception, there was one time where I thought the snacker cam was actually purposeful.
Really?
I think it was in one of the last few episodes with only 2 or 3 tables left, I believe. But and we'll get to that later. But that was the only time it really worked for me at any level.
Yeah, I mean, Lon says in the first episode, the KFC snacker cam gives a, quote, unique perspective.
No.
The shots look fine. Technically they're fine.
No,
they just don't add any purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the most part, the same chips as the year previous were used,
Mm-hmm.
except for from the 5K chips onward.
Yeah.
So the 5K chips were colored kind of white-orange,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had the 25K chips were the, oh my god, I forget. Oh, the like red chips. They're like red, yellow, or red-orange chips, and then the very dubious, ugly, like neon green 100K chips, which now these chips still get used in certain tournaments, but not for the main event nowadays. Yeah. Other changes, kind of intermixed with the coverage, is the championship moments, which is really just a rehashing of past champions or particular hands that we've covered in recent memory, so that they seem pretty pointless for me.
Yeah, I didn't get anything out of the segments. I mean, the Stu Unger one, because
that's the one that kind of stood out a little bit.
Yeah, and Johnny Massa, everybody's like, oh, he's such a great poker player. I mean, I'm not disputing that characterization. It's just comparing the state of poker in the 70s to where poker was in '06, and then looking at it now, it's
absolutely
kind of hard point of comparison to make.
Absolutely, but that's like comparing like a sports legend from the 1960s to nowadays. You have to go by at the time, as hard as it is to kind of adjust your point of view. And so again, all these championship moments were either redundant or just so recent that it really didn't even matter. Like, oh, Joe Hashem, his fight, he wins. Well, we just saw it the year prior. Dan Harrington, back to back. Like they covered that ad nauseum the last couple of years. It's just,
and he really does look older in 1995.
He still does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We still had the degree all in moments. It still was pointless as it was in '05. But possibly the best upgrade was no more Player of the Year leaderboard.
Yep.
That was a relief. And I think they maybe name dropped the winner of the '06 Player of the Year once, Jeff Madison, but I don't think.
They did.
I think they showed him once in the field before he busted, but that was about it for.
They just mentioned, and obviously they mentioned that Alan Cunningham was the Toyota Player of the Year in '05. But that was
Yes, Mr. Cunningham, the top kind of the pro. Every final table always seems to have like one of the kind of top-ish pros that all the pros root for at the final table. He was the '06 version of that.
By far, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think as far as the broadcast was concerned, that was those were the only changes really from 05.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple little editing tricks. Like right at the start of episode 1, they sort of have this dramatic opening montage where they, put the names of the winners on the screen and they use a new sort of music sting.
Yes.
They did a couple little editing things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I think were nice. I mean, I think it's nice to have new music, make it a little bit more dramatic.
Yes.
Yeah, but beside that, I mean, the green room's the same sort of
The Nuts is still a segment as well.
Mm-hmm. Lon and Norm's narration is basically the same. They've really developed their persona by now.
The same starting stack, 10,000 chips, the same blind structure, 2-hour levels, 25 and 50 blinds to start.
Mm-hmm.
We had 4 day ones this time.
Crazy.
Which is what I think has been the norm, more or less, for a long time now. But
yeah, I think so.
And I didn't detect any misleading editing as we did in 05 with the Philomath episode in 05. So I think it was 4 days because they had such a big field. So, you're thinking around 2,000 players maybe each day.
Yeah.
With over 8,000 players.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice one thing. One of the early hands, they show the blind on the screen, it's 25-50. Cox raises to like 300, and Lon says that he made it 3x the big blind, but that might have just been a mistake.
Oh, you know what? Now that you say that does ring a bell. I think you're right.
Yeah, that's what I have written in my notes. Cox raises to 300, Lon says 3x the big blind, but that might have just been a mistake that he said 3x instead of the footage being wrong. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
It might have been a graphics error, or it could have been a time chronology error.
That's the only thing I noticed, at least on day 1A.
Yes.
Yeah.
So day 1A, we do get the Phil Hellmuth show.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a lot of losing the minimum, good laydown kind of situations.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really. He goes out on day 1. He does have some jousting with Brandy Jensen, who is kind of this poker loser. I mean, he's just not real. He's just kind of this. I think he was an amateur that had one big score that was kind of his claim to fame, if I recall looking up a while back.
I think that's true. Yeah.
So they kind of make him to be a big deal, even though he's not at all. And day 1A, they cover a lengthy list of pros in the field. You have the Brunsons, Doyle and Todd, David Williams. This is kind of the culmination of a pattern of highlighting past main event winners,
right?
Past final tablists of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Which you can imagine as each year you are essentially adding to that list. You have the top woman in the field. You have the top winners. You have the top, Dennerman, who made it second place the year prior. So you're adding so many people to this sort of to your focus, to the let's have a quick shot of them and quick shot of them, that you're not really able to focus on any of them in particular.
Yeah, I mean I don't know if that characterization is completely accurate, because we do get quite a few juicy Hellmuth moments in this episode.
Absolutely. Hellmuth is always gold.
Yeah.
And probably my favorite Hellmuth segment is talking about his recent persona change in 06, which is funny because every year literally they have a bit on this, how he's a changed man once again.
He's a chameleon, what can I say?
And they show him watch himself. It's just kind of, it's like one of those Hall of Mirror tricks, and he makes possibly one of the funniest comments of the whole main event. He looks comparing himself to Elvis in appearance.
Oh, yeah.
I got the hat off and the glasses off. I'm looking kind of like Elvis. I mean, he kind of does a little bit, right? A little bit.
A touch. I think probably my favorite Hellmuth comment is, "They're trying to bust me."
I mean, and then he actually talks to Norman Chet at one point in this episode. He flops top a pair of aces and he says, "No, Norman Chet, you're trying to catch me going out." This is the third hand I've played in 3 hands. It's pretty funny stuff.
It's great, yeah. The other player just yelling at him, "Muck your cards!" Just muck your cards.
Yeah. And then, of course, Ronnie Jensen tries to tell Phil, saying, "Oh, they all play so bad." Like, he's trying to quote Phil and tell him, but really, Jensen just comes off as total amateur bait with that comment.
Yeah.
We also get a very early appearance of Brian Rast, who would be a thorn in Hellmuth's side 5 years from this main event in 2011 in the PPC 50K Championship.
Sorry, Phil, I have the nuts I call. Such a great line. I love it.
We see a lot of players in this episode. Andy Black, Shirley Williams, David Williams, the runner-up in 04's mom, playing against Devilfish of all people.
Yeah.
We get Brad Garrett with Men the Master, Phil Ivey. Brad Garrett again would be a very recurring celebrity. We mentioned him last time. He's very prominent in these sort of early days episodes for comic relief.
Yeah, I mean, he had, what was his sitcom that was on?
Everyone Loves Raymond.
Everyone Loves Raymond. That was it. Yes, I mean, he was
which
a big
I've
star.
never actually watched. Like I've literally never seen a clip of it. I've seen clips of like Two and a Half Men or Big Bang Theory here and there. Raymond, I've never seen Raymond.
When you brought up the name of the show, I had you kind of like flashed to a clip in my mind, and I sat there and I'm like, oh wait, that's the King of Queens. So I've never seen it either. I thought I'd seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we get a little bit of everybody, a segment from Andy Black talking about losing in 2005 and how emotional he was. We get the...
We get Mark Saunders.
Yeah.
Probably the most touching, the second most touching part of this entire main event. A man who had a grand mal seizure, found to have a brain tumor, was told he had 8 months to live, and so he entered the main event as sort of a, bucket list kind of celebrating life type deal with his family and friends.
Yeah.
And I looked up yesterday, he didn't die until 2011, so he lived 5 more years past the sort of 8 months to live diagnosis. So that's congrats to him for being able to sort of beating cancer for that long. Yeah,
it's a nice little segment. I mean, they did that with Rockwell the previous year, the guy who lost his arms.
I mean, it was just a shame that he didn't make it past day one. It would have been a better story for him to actually,
of course,
get past that first day. And then we did have Joe Seabach in a bear with a diaper costume. Due to a bet with Gavin Smith, rest in peace, Gavin Smith. Who he had to wear a number of different outfits, but that was, in my opinion, the funniest by far. Because he was actually playing in that outfit, not like just on the stands. So you can't even stop laughing. That's how funny it was. Yeah.
Oh man, if I played the main event, I'm going in outfits. That's gonna be fun.
And then the episode concludes with Helmuth busting in the exact same way he busted in 2005, losing the face queen pre-flop with a short stint against Golden Sevens.
Well, Jansen busts right afterward, doesn't he?
Jensen busts. He had a lot of chips in the first 10 minutes of this episode. He had that's like 16,000 at that point, and then he goes out with Queen Jack
I hope you all win to get hit by cars.
He's trying so hard to be funny. It's just not funny intentionally.
It's true. He seems like he's not a bad guy, but yeah.
So, episode 2. What were your thoughts on episode 2?
Day 1B, you mean?
Yeah.
Day 1B, I mean, you do get, as you mentioned, a little bit of everybody, but I feel like everybody has a moment. We have the segment with Danneman talking about him being in second place. You get sort of sense of his home game, which is clearly staged for the camera. They're all sitting around one end of the table so that the camera can get a good view on them. But, I don't mind having, one moment from Danneman, one moment from Mattisau, one moment from, somebody else. I don't mind a little bit of that as long as you're able to build narratives in future episodes.
That's the thing, is that by having all these day one clips and narratives, if you want to call them that, you're not developing anybody. Yeah,
but we have Alan Cunningham in the previous episode in Day 1A. I mean, we're starting to see him play. We're starting to sort of see his name reputation build. And also, I mean, with Day 1B, I mean, Mattisau and Danneman don't survive the day.
Yes.
But they're still big characters, and your job is to produce an entertaining television show. You're going to show the entertaining people, Mattisau and Danneman.
This episode had the theme of redemption. The introduction emphasizes that Mattisau being at the preacher table, no one in better need of a redemption story than Mattisau after his double $1 million scores in 2005, being gonzo in
less than a year.
Less than that, I think. I think he said it was he was doing a few weeks or something, on Sportsbet or something.
I mean, I imagine a few of it went to paying off some of the debts of his, but yeah, it probably was all blown.
I mean, Mattisau, he plays a lot of hands, just kind of hangs in there, and then he ultimately loses when he gets rivered by a flush with his set of sevens.
Yeah.
And we do see a kind of a rematch of Corey Zeidman and Jen Harmon.
Oh yeah.
They were table neighbors, and Zeidman once again gets the better of Harmon, even though he goes out later in the episode.
Yeah.
So not much about redemption there. We do get Daniel Negreanu.
Yeah.
He actually makes it past day one this time. He does complain about the bet sizing of the amateurs, which is something we've discussed at great length for the 03, 04, 05 main events.
Oh yeah.
300 to 5,000, 550 to 10,000. That's not poker. We get Matisow comparing poker to brain surgery.
Yep.
He's like, I fixed the brain. Like that's. I'll leave it to Matisow, a guy like Matisow, with that big an ego to compare poker to brain surgery.
Crazy, just crazy.
Okay.
And then we get Esfandiari for the first time, right?
I think did we? I don't recall. Oh, that's right. He pantses Mike Matisow.
What an entrance! I mean, man.
Now, Esfandiari was in some of the circuit event coverage. I remember in 05 he made a third place finish, and that was my first introduction to him.
Yeah, but I think this is his first main event appearance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What an entrance.
We do get to see some of the celebrities in the field.
Yep.
Tobey Maguire again, Mickey Pfeiffer,
Pfeiffer, yeah.
From Torchwood and Dawn of the Dead, as I know him. Sully Erna, lead singer of Godsmack. Jennifer Tilly, Shannon Elizabeth, kind of, again, repeat performance from 05.
Yep.
We do have Jenneman's entire home game in the tournament, all 7 of them, so they, kind of go out one by one, of course.
Jerry did so.
We do have, again, the top epic amateur alert quote, "You got the flush," on a board with no flush possibility and the guy's a straight. So he's like, "You got the flush." Landau hits like rivers of full house to beat the straight. But again, just even in 06, they were amateurs confusing straights for flushes. So.
Oh yeah.
I think Matisow said that his money was gone in 3 days. I wrote it down in my notes here actually. The money was gone in 3 days, and he was in $200,000 in debt.
Yeah, I have it in my notes that he said he lost $500,000 in 2 weeks. God,
entered this main event in debt basically. So his day one exit not going to help towards that at all. He did make it. I think was it third place in the 06 Tournament of Champions.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Mm-hmm.
Maybe he put some of that towards that debt. Let's hope he did.
Aye.
And then I guess day 1B ends with Negreanu with a huge stack. He was like top 10 or something in chips.
Mm-hmm.
Raymer had survived to day 2 in 06. And 5 of Damon's crew of 7 still alive.
Pretty good odds, yeah.
But that brings us to episode 3, day 1C, which again is the Joe Hashem show. I'm sorry, there's only 3 days. 3 day ones.
Oh, okay.
In my head, I thought there were 4. I guess I'm thinking
just 3.
There were just 3 to 1. So this is the Joe Hashem show, the classic defending champ at the featured table episode.
Yep.
And for once, they actually thrive the whole way through.
Hashem just runs it over. I mean, I think even Norman Chad says at the end of the episode, he's had the entire table dangling by a thread off a cliff all day, and that's just an accurate summation of Hashem. I mean, I think I mentioned this before, how a lot of main event champions, they complain how in the year after they win, a lot of players come at them. So I guess Hashem was just able to turn it around.
For once, he didn't overplay his hands. He was able to make some hands. Quad deuces on the very last hand.
So sick.
He makes 20 plus thousand with 4 deuce on the last hand of day 1. Unbelievable. We do get a couple of 21-year-olds who I swear they look older than me. Like,
yeah,
it's unreal. I'm closer to 30 than I am 20, and I'm seeing all these 21-year-olds that look like they're older than me. It's crazy.
Yeah, everyone just looks so young. I mean, Ben Grundy, this guy, he looked like he was 17.
He's 30 years old or something.
He's 30 years old. It's just crazy, yeah.
The Gouldings, Mr. Victor Goulding, who we saw in 05, he came back both with himself and his son and grandson. So we had 3 Goulding generations in the main event. Rest in peace, Victor Goulding, by the way.
Yeah.
And other people in the field, Lennox Lewis.
Yep.
Swearing off against Carlos Mortensen's ex-wife. The funny little matchup there.
And he was an alternate.
Yeah, so
they still had alternates. What the heck?
Now I wasn't sure if that meant maybe he bought in late because you don't have to. Maybe they could have bought in not from minute 0 of the tournament, or maybe because usually the last day 1 is the biggest of the day ones session, so that's possible that was just simply a part of that.
Yeah, that could have been that. Yeah,
that might have been the reason why they decided to have 4 day ones in 07.
But still, just crazy. crazy having alternates.
Now, people who watch Poker Go on YouTube will recognize the Hank Azaria hands folding kings correctly to some amateur who shows the aces pre-flop, and we get a great Chief Wiggum moment there with how do you get that, Chief Wiggum? I'm not a good impersonation of them. Sorry.
Yeah, it's amazing how he just pulls the voice off like that.
And then I think this episode also has a momentous occasion in history. The first ever "Good for you" Norm to Lon comments. That would be a kind of almost a catchphrase for Norm. Lon will say something and then Norm will retort, "Good for you."
Yeah, one of my favorite Lon Norm moments ever happened in this episode is right after the nuts, where Lon does his impersonation of Norm. Like, oh my god, that was epic.
This was, I think, the first nuts of the 06 main events. It was just kind of impersonation. So we had Mattisau, Hellmuth, Hellmuth, and Sky Nguyen being impersonated.
Yep.
And then, of course, we have your favorite Lon and Norm little impersonation moment there.
Well, Phil Gordon does his impression of Ivy, which is just raking in a bunch of chips in silence, which is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, the end of the day, we do lose a lot of past champs. Moneymaker, Chan are out, Luce not surviving past day one. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 3 Gouldings get eliminated.
Yep.
And we're told that there are 3,300 players remaining after all the day ones combined. So about 3/8 of the field alive after the first day.
Crazy. Just amazing.
And then episode 4 is day 2, covers all of day 2.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Daniel Negreanu show for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He enters the day of a big stack, and even though he kind of takes a few hits here and there, he, still wins. That show, it feels like 8 or 9 hands he's in.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And, every hand this future table has shown, he's in the hand, and he ends it way up. I think he ends the day in 5th place in the overall chip counts.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
We get kind of a recap of all the names from day 1 that were still in the field at the very start. We have, Alan Cunningham, Andy Black, the Williamses, Shirley, and David, Negreanu, Ivy. Sully Erna, the maker of Microsoft Word, which is surprising, Richard Brody.
Yeah, very interesting fellow.
And then Celine Dion's husband, rest in peace, Celine Dion's husband.
He's dead?
He's dead.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
He was a lot older than her, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, I guess, actually, another surprisingly touching moment is Daniel's number 1 fan, the burn victim, Mr. Matt Gravlin Jr. I gotta say, this might actually be the most heartfelt main events so far, actually, now that I'm thinking about this.
Yeah, and knowing that he's not going to make the final table, and Negreanu's, looking into the cameras like, I guarantee you I'm going to, fly you in, I'm going to make the final table. It's like, oh,
too bad.
He's
still alive, though. It's not like he was,
didn't
have cancer, it was just kind of a feel-good story.
Yeah, he's sitting over the gas tank, and he gets burned like that. Jeez. Ugh, God.
Really, the subplot, if you want to call it, the B plot of this episode is the Dimitri Nobles on the outer table working as the chip. I think that's more day 3, but
he does pop up and he's got $500,000
chips after day 2, which is I feel like the equivalent of 250 big blinds, maybe 300 big blinds.
Yeah, I think the blinds were I have in my notes that Dimitri Nobles was $500,000, and then the blind sits in was 400, 800. So he was on a tear.
So just as day 2 is ending, Negreanu wins his big hand against Srinivasa Yaligada, the supposed gas station employee who really is a computer programmer.
I love it. That's great.
I love it when he says, I bet 40,000. And then Alon goes, 40,000? Wow. And then Negreanu said, okay, I'm all in. Just instantly you have 300,000 in chips in the middle on day 2 with the classic ace king versus queens, but big hand, and day 2 ends with 1,159 players left. So about just over a third of who began the day.
Yep, Hasham's still in, but Varconi's gone, Scotty Wynn's gone, all of Daneman's crew is busted, and obviously Negreanu makes it. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So day 3, and this is referred to as just day 3, but I'm very convinced this is day 3, part 1. Or maybe it was written that way. It doesn't matter. It's day 3. Annie Duke, at the featured table. Plus
Mm-hmm.
plus this is the bubble burst episode.
Yep.
And then and they mentioned this at the top of the episode that it's the first time the entire field is in play together. So it makes me think what maybe day 2 is in 2 sessions, like day 1A, B, and day 2C, which they've done since then.
Yeah, they've done that.
But they made no mention of it at all in the earlier episodes. So perhaps I just didn't feel the need to be like. They didn't have enough content to be like a day 2A, B, and day 2C.
Yeah, I mean, they managed to get in quite a bit into day 2, but yeah, that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you figure they just mention it in passing.
Mm-hmm. So day 3, part 1, you have Annie Duke at the FT bridge table, and you have Dimitri Nobles spewing chips and getting chips on the outer table.
Yep.
As they like to do the chip leader, they like to, because either they get even bigger chip count, or they just totally implode. So it's like win-win if you're following the chip leader.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things to do at watching these episodes is just take a note of who's the top chip stack at the start of the day and see if they're still there by the end of the day. Probably 3 out of 5 times they're like gone. It's just crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this episode has the first and I think only of 2 uses of the all-in button.
Oh yeah.
I think we mentioned that every player at the start of the 06 main event got a chip that said all-in on it, and they would I guess hold it in their pocket or on the table, and they could toss it in instead of saying all-in, which is kind of pointless.
Yeah, I don't know why they did it. I think
it would make for a good souvenir, I guess. But besides that,
I mean, I guess you do that so that way you don't have to say how much chips are in your stack. I don't know.
I feel like it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean,
the muscles and the posture you're doing to put the chip in versus just saying all in or something. I feel like it's not so. I'm not surprised that we only ever saw 2 uses of the button the entire tournament.
Yeah.
This was the less entertaining of the 2 uses of it, but nonetheless, the first one.
Yeah.
Again, as part of the rounding up of all the players in the field, we see Mentor Brennis again. Ferguson going out of 10-6 off, really. Hashem, a very strong tail defense, still alive at this point in the tournament.
Though I would say, I mentioned this in the last episode, how I, was reading comments about Hashem, and half of them were like, oh, he's such a nice guy, he's so cool, and the other half were like, he berates players. His edit in 06 was definitely the latter. He just comes across as, kind of mean to me.
Yeah, when he was not at the featured table, definitely more so than when he was on day 1.
He's at the featured table, he was fine, but
I mean, he was a little cocky, but he was getting cards too, so you're kind of allowed to be cocky when you're getting cards. But absolutely, definitely had a short fuse for sure.
Crazy, he was actually angry at.
I mean, he was just feeling the pressure of the main event again after winning it all. He was trying to have a strong showing the next year as well. But compared to a guy like Raymer or even Moneymaker, they're much more in
civil,
control of their emotions, definitely for sure.
Yeah, much more civil.
Yeah.
I mean, Raymer made it to the final 3 tables.
He kind of makes Jamie Gold not look as bad by comparison in certain respects. To an extent. For the first bit of Jamie Gold coverage, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Mr. Gold, he does pop up for the first time, losing a bunch of chips to Brian Micon, the icon, and is just shaking his head. He's like, no problem. It's all okay that I lost a bunch of chips.
What's that what I'm going to do? Let's see. So day 3, again, Annie Duke does cover a slightly amusing story of her being 9 months pregnant in the 2000 main event where she finished 10th and just being very easily cranky or teary-eyed, which is again pretty funny and again a very impressive showing for Duke to make it through the 2000 main event, and again she makes a very deep run in 06 as well. This kind of is the most spotlight she gets of that entire run. But again, a very impressive job for her.
Yeah.
In this very large field.
Granted, she does get lucky rivering the 10, but
yes, the episode ends with her hitting a 2-outer on the river to double up and extend her avoid a mini cash and actually make it fairly deep in the tournament.
Yeah.
We do get the Nets covering poker tattoos. Annie Duke has a tattoo on her lower back she shows off, but other. We do get a reference to the 05 day 1 bust out. This guy spent more time getting this tattoo than he spent in the main event.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's it's funny stuff. We get some, bizarre characters in the outer tables. We got a guy doing a handstand after the level burns. And then he just kind of stands up and, stares into the distance like, what? I'm tired.
We got to talk about Ricky Miller's vest.
Noisy, yeah. It's a brilliant strategy.
I love it.
I love it. And
I love it.
I just can't believe
he got away with it.
He got away with it for a little bit, and then they call a floor man and take it off when it's you see people wearing wife beaters and bizarre bear wearing diaper outfits. And you won't let a guy wear a noisy vest? Come on.
And he's got a cigar in his mouth. Just such a baller. Wow. And the second he gets eliminated, he goes, "Where's my vest?" Just great. What a great guy.
I should say the one left in this episode though is the lack of any real focus on the bubble.
I thought that
there's
too.
There's no countdown of eliminations to the bubble. There's no this is our bubble boy. There's no any real focus to that. Which is again, I love that part of the tournament.
Great. So it's so much natural tension in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean we get a couple players, at the feature show, kind of looking at the television screen.
A little bit.
That's it.
That's it.
It's such a shame. Show us a montage of all the players surviving the bubble or something. That would have been cool. Yeah.
And important to note is that remarkably late in the tournament, we don't get until after this episode the 5K chips. Up until this point, normally the 5K chips are in the starting stack, and everyone has one to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They wait a very long time to introduce those, which leads to just these chip towers.
Yeah.
Chip towers. Nobles has half the table in just covered with these chips, 20 chip stacks. And Granu has this monster stack at the start of the episode before he. I actually read some of the original blog posts from covering that day, and Grano, he was shown winning a huge pot at one point early on, but he had doubled up 2 short stacks prior to that hand. So he'd been down and up, and then he ends up losing. He gets up. He's the short stack the rest of the tournament after that, basically.
Yeah.
Despite being 5th in chips to start the day 3.
Crazy.
And then our boy Nobles ends this episode 2nd in chips, and they supplant him into the featured table into the next episode.
Yep.
And so I have very vivid memories of the episode growing up. But what was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I don't have a strong memories of 06, 05 as the event that I sort of remember growing up when I was a kid. I can see that people might find Nobles annoying, a little over the top. We can talk about his play; it's not great, but I like guys that have personality. And when Nobles comes up with, send him out on a stretcher, it's great. I mean, I think that stuff like that is what's missing in poker in the modern day. And it was really refreshing to me to see it because I was thinking just gold, to see Nobles as a sort of counter to show that gold was not the only one, talking it up is refreshing, I think.
I mean, a lot of the showdowns in this episode, you have George Danzer versus Dimitri Nobles. We have Daniel Negreanu winning a hand versus Jamie Gold on the outer table.
Yep.
We do have Prahlad Freeman against Umberto and a very funny, this guy doesn't survive the day over here moment. Negreanu playing his favorite hand, the 10-7. Short stacked all in, wins a hand against 9-6. And also a pretty amusing side segment with him playing golf, the youngsters versus the oldsters. He makes more money playing golf than he does in this main event in this deep run.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. We get Lee Court, who would be Jamie Gold's whipping boy later in the tournaments.
Yep.
With a great quote, "I bagged the elephant" when he doubles up against Dimitri Nobles.
Yep.
Again, the episode really just kind of covers Nobles splashing chips around, losing, winning a little back, losing more, getting ridiculously lucky twice on all-ins, and he somehow makes his way to survive the episode.
And then in the middle of it, Jamie Gold has $3 million in chips.
Just randomly.
Just poof, there he is, $3 million.
And I am dead convinced that to sort of fill the airtime, they were showing day 3 with this Nobles table, and then the outer table was all day 4 coverage because we jumped. The blinds are 25 and 5K.
Yeah.
And it jumps into the next episode, and the blinds are 6,000, 12,000. So there's a lot of levels in between there. That's why I'm convinced that they wanted to get as much Nobles nonsense in there before they would move on to day 4.
Okay, that's a fair theory.
That's my theory.
That's fair.
And so we do lose a lot of important names in the field in this episode. We lose Negreanu, we lose Hashem, who goes out with aces of all hands. We lose the last Golding.
Yeah.
Michael Lynn, a cancer survivor, bus. We do lose Tom McAvoy, another past champion of the main event.
Yep. Danzer, who's since gone on to have a pretty solid career. I think he's won like 4 bracelets or something. Mm-hmm. He busts right at the end of the episode.
And the episode kind of ends previewing kind of the 5 pros that are still in the field, more or less. So we have Brennis, Annie Duke, Cunningham, Prahlad Freeman, and Jeff Lissandro.
Yep.
And so episode 7 is day 4. I guess kind of focusing on day 4, though, not just kind of halving it. Mm-hmm. With Umberto Brennis in the at the table, we have the 10K and the 25K chips now back in play. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely chipping up those old chips. And with 135 players left at this point.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, definitely the narrative from pretty much from here on out, I mean, even at the final table, is pros versus the talkative young guns.
Or Jamie Gold.
I.e. Jamie Gold. But yeah, I mean, Nobles is still in it. We do get Mr. Eric Molina popping up a little bit here and there.
I mean, that scene of him with the Care Bears is just
oh my god,
so memorable. He a 21-year-old, freshly 21, probably his first poker tournament ever. He's drunk off his ass playing. He's insulting his table mates. He's putting in these ridiculous bets. He's swearing. He gets almost penalized. He says, "Okay, I'm not going to switch it to Care Bears. Instead of swearing, I'm going to say the word Care Bears."
Which I mentioned this. It's stupid that they do the swearing thing, but it produces a moment like that. It might all be worth it, that policy.
And then there is the. I'm speechless. It's just Emily is so. It's just so
he
good.
Calls a guy without looking at his cards. Turns his hand over. He has King 9, and he's berating the other guy for having Jack 8. I mean, come on.
The guy has like 8 big blinds. I'm pretty sure at this point. Like give him a break here.
He busts Jacobs.
And then I must note the Eric Molina move where he kind of claps and then fist bumps. He's like, yes! He like does like a double clap fist bump move.
It's so dorky. Like,
absolutely.
Oh my god. He busts Jacobs, who Jacobs, had been getting quite a bit of little airtime. Seems like a nice guy. He had his dad who had made the final table. They're talking like, is he going to make the final table? Such a nice, sort of little subplot. And then Molina's just yelling at Jacobs. You made such a terrible move.
I put in $200,000. What are you doing with Ace 10 suited? Gone. I'm going to give my co-host here a moment to himself.
Jesus, yeah. And then, I mean, the Gold Molina hand is just like, that's just worth the price of admission. I mean,
so Jamie Gold, in this episode, his chip count jumps dramatically out of nowhere. So at the top of the hour, he's at 3.7 million, and then he's just randomly up to 7 million. We don't get to see really a lot of the early rise of the first Gold Dynasty here.
Yeah, I mean, there's some suggestions later that, players were busting him, giving him gifts or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something in terms of the narrative that you can criticize. I would wish we had gotten more of Gold. I mean, cameras seem to have been on him because, they were on him when he had the 3 million. So yes. I don't know.
And then we lose the last woman in the field, Sable Cohen.
Yep.
She busts in 56th place, which actually does hold up pretty well compared to some of the last female standings in recent years. And they mentioned that only 3% of the whole field is female. So, with a tournament of 8,700, I think the composite average of that still works out okay, I think, because...
Yeah. I mean, 3% of 8,700, that's about 250.
250. So, again, that's beating the math there by being the last one in 56. So, that's, again, very impressive. But obviously, we'll be teased with better finishes by the last woman standing in later years. But
yeah, I mean, it's just insane how big poker has gotten and how international it's gotten, and yet it was 3% in 06, and then Norm, I think, said in like 2018 that it was only 4%.
Yeah, it's only
it barely grows amongst women. It's just astonishing. There's no good reason for it.
I mean, you could argue that the moneymaker effect was for it's like the average Joe poker room effect.
Yeah.
We get the average Jane poker room effect. If we had gotten a final tableist or a winner even in the main event being female, that would have been most likely a big boost.
Yeah, I think a winner would have to be a woman. I don't think finishing in 9th place would do anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah, it'll happen, I think.
But let's get back to the Jamie Gold Eric Molina hand. We get the second showing use of the all-in button where Molina flips the chip and it ends up in front of Jamie Gold, like on his stack, like in his lap practically, and then he tosses it back at Molina, gives the great line, "Don't be an ass." Excuse me.
I'm surprised Gold didn't get a penalty for that.
I'm surprised
too. He threw the button right at him.
I mean, yeah, Molina definitely kind of flipped it, and it was an arc, so you could argue he wasn't throwing it at Gold. It was just kind of in that direction, but it wasn't. It was the way a chip kind of falls. It can kind of fall like
but
that.
Gold actually threw it directly at him. I mean, Madison almost got a penalty for throwing cards supposedly, so I'd figure something like that. And then Molina gets a penalty.
Yeah. I mean, Alberto Brenes is the kind of the pro at the featured table episode. He's kind of short stacked though the whole time. So he kind of plays tight, but he does win a pretty funny all-in against Eric Freiberg. In a flip situation. He talks in Spanish. It's supposed to be English only, but when Umberto speaks English, it's not English. Pretty funny stuff. Calling to the dealer, I was Maria. Umberto, who's the king? Umberto is the king.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about, the big talkers, Gold and, Nobles, but so many great lines from Umberto throughout this tournament. I think my favorite line has to be, how do you say shark in Spanish? Umberto! It's such a great line. Oh, my God. And we'll be seeing more of him next year, so that's good.
Will be. He does do an impressive back-to-back kind of run performance for sure. The episode, I think, concludes with 45 left of the original 135.
Crazy.
So 1/3 of who began the day.
Mm-hmm.
We lose Nobles, we lose Maicon, we lose Duke, we lose Jacobs, but we still have Lissandro, Prahlad Freeman, Alan Cunningham, and then they're starting to show some of the people that are going to make the final table, even if they're not really given much attention. Binger, Wasika, Leaf Force makes a deep run too. So
yeah, I mean Wasika had quite a few chips on this day. He had like a couple million or something like
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, so I mean he was doing well throughout the tournament.
And then day 5 or episode 8, they mentioned that it's 45 players playing down to 27, which just seems really odd to me. You don't normally see a full day, so again, I think there was some just sort of artistic license there, kind of as far as how they were playing that day. Yeah, because and this episode is probably my least favorite of the entire 06 main event. It's just to me, there's anti-gate, and that's kind of the only thing that really stands out with this episode.
There's a few little moments I like. I like the Leaf Force moments in here,
I mean, we get Jamie Gold kind of rising. His chip count goes way up, and we don't really see much of it at all, which again is unfortunate.
There is a fun moment where Gold busts a player as Hansen, and if you look in the background, you see Alan Cunningham, and his jaw's dropped. He's just like astonished at how many chips Gold has. I thought that was funny.
We do learn about Jamie Gold's coach. His poker coach being Johnny Chan, who from this point on would regularly converse with Jamie Gold about how he was playing. That's kind of positive reinforcements, which is it's good to have a top champ in your corner for sure.
Yep, he met Johnny Chan supposedly because Gold was playing like California casinos, and Chan was like, "You're going to win the tournament," at least according to Jamie Gold. That's what Chan says. So he apparently Gold gave Chan 10% of his winnings or something like that.
Of the 50% that he had to begin with, is that?
I think so, or I don't know if it was 10% of his half or 10% of everything. Either way, that must be the easiest money Johnny Chan's ever made in his life. Imagine that.
We do see a more chill, mellow Eric Molina. Most likely his parents, spanked him a few times to wise him up. We do see Fred Goldberg, who would be kind of compared to Moneymaker as far as being a lookalike.
Yep, and sort of young guy.
Rewatch this. I could have sworn he makes the final table, but he does not. And I was like, I couldn't believe who doesn't. How did he not get in? He has all his chips.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just how much coverage he got in comparison to like Dan Nassif or something, where you just kind of believe that he'd make it.
And then let's get into anti-gate.
Oh,
we have to do it because this is again probably the most remembered dramatic part of the 06 main event, besides maybe Jamie Gold's misconduct on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, up till this point, Jamie Gold, he was a little over the line in the hand against Lowell Kim, but besides that, he was pretty within the lines of ethics and the rules.
Pretty much, yeah.
So this was kind of the first big controversial moment of the whole main event. So who do you think was right and who was wrong in this?
So Dustin. So let's first just set up the hand. So they're just playing a normal hand. Dustin Holmes forgets to put out an ante.
He's in the small blind.
He's in the small blind, right? We see, they show the overhead camera later, and we clearly see, Jeff Lissandro put out the ante. The dealer points out and says, wait, something's wrong. She doesn't specify what's wrong. She says something's wrong, and then she clarifies someone's missing an ante. Dustin Holmes puts in the ante, the hand continues, and I actually forgot that they showed that initial segment and Prahlad saying, I thought you throw it in, and then the hand continues. I think with something like that, when Prahlad says, I think, an ante's missing, something's gone wrong here. Like, you should say that in between hands. I don't think you should say that while a hand is going on, especially when Jeff Lissandro, who, you think took an ante, is involved in the hand. I think you should save that in between.
I agree, and then, of course, Prahlad is wrong. So that hurts his case, too. He's wrong. He keeps bringing it up.
Yeah.
Over and over. Lissandro doesn't respond for the first couple of sort of remarks that Prahlad makes, which is to his credit because Lissandro has a very short fuse, as I've learned since 2017 main event.
Oh my!
And Lissandro holds together, then he just keeps bringing it up, and then eventually Lissandro says, "Are you going to stop? It's not even his chip."
Right.
And it gets said enough that when the floorman comes by and Prahlad talks to him, and then Lissandro comes over and says, he hates being called a thief. Being called a thief is like a poker no-no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so up to this point, Lissandro is completely okay, and then he takes it too far, saying he'll knock out Prahlad's teeth, and then Prahlad tries to cry like, "Oh no, mommy, he was mean to me," to the floorman.
Yeah.
Even though Lissandro is out of line saying, "I'll take your head off, buddy."
Yeah.
Prahlad's acting like such a child the whole time that I kind of had to side with Lissandro here.
Yeah, I side with Lissandro too, and I wish Dustin Holmes had said something in that moment, like, "Hey, I was the one that made the mistake." But I don't blame him for not saying anything. But I do wish he'd stepped up and said, like, "Hey, Prahlad, it was my fault." That's what I would have done.
I'll give Prahlad credit. He did manage to do a couple of bluffs against Lissandro, which he might not have played had that bout not happened to begin with, because Prahlad was raising up pretty crap cards and Lissandro was missing flops basically. So so good for Prahlad for somehow turning a negative into a positive, but Prahlad does not come off good in this at all.
I mean, when the dealer is saying out loud, "You guys need to stop," you need to stop.
I thought I threw it in.
At first, I thought he threw it. I thought I saw you do that, and then it becomes like, "Oh, I'm certain that you
I'm not
stole
certain.
chips from him."
I know how it is. I've been around poker a while. I know how it is.
It's like his certainty just goes up as time goes on, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I wish they'd just shown the footage to the three of them, been like, "Hey, here's what happened."
It's just not feasible in the moment that I'm trying to play poker there.
Yeah.
We do get a relatively okay championship moments of the infamous Phil Hellmuth head shave after Varcone's win, because again we began this coverage rewatch in 03, so anything from 02 behind we have not seen recently. So it's kind of funny, but
it was funny,
and it was not a rehash of what we had seen in 03, 04, 05. So that was a positive.
Yeah, it's a cute moment. I like it. So, on to day 6, then.
Well, we do lose Molina and Brunnis.
Yeah.
They both go out with mediocre cards.
Unbelievable.
Molina, a blow-up. Umberto, a short stack blow-up.
Yeah.
We see David Einhorn, a wealthy hedge fund manager.
Mm-hmm.
That we mock because of our connections to the financial world to a degree.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
Einhorn made a great move. He was donating his winnings to the Michael J. Fox Parkinson's Disease Foundation, which makes his eventual loss more frustrating in retrospect, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
As you said, the next episode gets to the final 3 tables, the classic 3 tables playing down to 2 tables episode.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 pros in the field remaining: Cunningham, Lissandro, and Prahlad Freeman.
Yeah.
And really, we have Jamie Gold, as I said, golding the table. And then Cunningham rising in the chip counts too, because he began relatively low in the chip counts, and this would begin his rise to chip stardom.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing well throughout the tournament beforehand, but this was really where he kicked it up a notch.
Absolutely, and I noticed that in the top 10 stacks of the final 27, 5 of them would make the final table. So you have
crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Only 5. I mean,
well, it's funny because this was another final few tables where there was such a huge chip disparity.
Yeah.
From the top, obviously Gold miles ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
And then you had a lot of short stacks in the field. So again, these polarizing chip counts, you're surprised only 5 of those 9 would reach the top 9.
Yeah, I mean, this is the episode I'd say that we really get to know Gold and his style of play. We get what I call top gate.
Absolutely. I was trying to, and then we have what are you doing? I was trying to be nice gate.
Oh, yep.
Lynch goes of A6 for over 2 million, which is a lot of chips still at this point.
Ugh, yeah. What's he doing?
We get the infamous Pralad rap, Poker is Fun rap, which is just, again, one of the top 5 worst raps I've ever heard in my entire life.
And then Gold mind fucks him into submission.
And then, yes, we get the you please call, you got me gate.
He gets up out of his seat and he crouches down behind his seat. And then when Pralad folds, he just stands up, whips his cards over, just goes, nothing! Yes!
Now, I mentioned the sniper cam earlier, during our talk here.
Yeah.
We do get a couple of shots of all 3 tables, the KF pans over, which is like, okay, that makes sense because there's 3 tables left and we're going to see in this one shot. That at least...
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
It made sense to use that camera. It doesn't make sense to call it the KFC sniper cam, but at least they used it in that facet.
Yeah.
We do learn a bit more about Lee Force,
yep.
Jungle Boy, or his name being Life Force, which I did not know. That's pretty cool.
He dodged a bullet, man. Wow. He would have been bullied into submission, man.
Absolutely.
Wow.
We do learn about Jamie Gold's dad with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, how he was, planning to spend some of his winnings to make his dad as comfortable as possible, which again is you want to root for him in that respect, but then you realize he's kind of an arrogant jerk at the table.
Yeah, I mean, he says that it's all going to his dad. Which,
well, it's like how long does he have to live, and how much money is that gonna be used? If someone has like a month to live, how much money can you spend in a month, really?
Yeah, and by all of it going to his dad, he really means like 10%.
Yes. Well, we already know half goes to his backer.
Yep.
1/10 goes to Johnny Chan, and that leaves the rest for his dad. And then 1/10 for like high stakes poker.
Yeah, there you go.
This is also the episode with the Stu Unger championship moments. So again, this is a pretty good episode, I gotta say, all things considered.
Yep, and then Gold busting Pralad Friedman. First off, saying, you got your call while Erickson is sitting there with pocket tens, where Erickson, you can tell, wants to play, but he just doesn't want to go broke. And then Gold actually hesitates. He's like, oh, I guess I got a call. He calls with 7-8, brags about how good his call is, and then flops.
And he mentions that his friend told him about a tell that I never got to use. It's kind of funny that you kind of waste that. You mentioned that now, of all times.
Yeah. Very weird.
David Einhorn
Yep.
Ends the session with 18 left, 4th in chips.
Heartbreaking.
Guess what place he finishes in? With 18 left, he's 4th in chips. What place does he finish in? That's right, 18th. 18th finish. It's just not good.
It's a shame.
And when you know he's donating his money to a good cause, it's just frustrating money. He could have folded his way to like the top, 15, 12, 13 players easy, and then maybe play some poker from there. It's just, $600,000 for the Huntington's research. Again, it's going to go a long way still, but
it's more money than Jamie donated to charity for those 12 million. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
And, Einhorn, if you've recognized the name, he got 3rd place. Was it the year that Esfandiari won the big one?
The 2012 one drop, that's right.
Yeah, and he's a talented
player. And then he bubbled the 2018 one drop in 6th place.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a talented player. He's raised a lot of money.
This is again probably his biggest accomplishment in poker
at the time. Yeah,
I think period. I think 18th in the main event in 06 is more impressive than the one drop.
All right,
3rd place. That's only 48 players.
Okay, sure.
And then so Jamie Gold ends the episode with a straight flush. Who would have guessed? And then he ends it with 20 million, which again is a huge stack.
Ugh, unreal.
As they play from 18 down to 9, this is very deep stack poker. A lot of big blinds still in play at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that at this point, with the 18 players left, we know Gold, and we sort of know Cunningham and Lissandro at this point, but we don't really know everybody else in the field still.
Yeah, I mean, Cunningham has an interesting narrative because early on they're mentioning how dangerous he is, but we don't really get to see him play that much early on.
We don't. He's at our tables usually. And now he was, no doubt shown in 05 episodes, so it's not like they felt the need to tell us his personality, because he's kind of a composed, probably an introverted a little bit kind of guy.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have much personality. Like, no offense to the guy, like, that's okay, that's fine,
And I must say, he's definitely one of the pros from this time who makes multiple deep runs in the main event to this day, like 2011, 2017, 2013. He's made some very impressive runs in the main event over the last decade.
Yeah, and he won another bracelet, I think, in 08, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, he hasn't won a bracelet since 08. But yeah, I mean, he's still a pretty talented player. I just wish he did have a little bit more personality than we could have seen.
Again, we just don't know these players at this point in the tournament very well at all.
Yeah, I mean, Wasko, we get a little bit of coverage because he seemed to have a bit of a big stack, earlier than mentioned. I think it was
pretty insubstantial, though.
Yeah, Lee, we get a little bit of his personality. Gold, yeah, I mean, we don't get, Doug Kim, he doubles up against Gold, Gold's bragging about how good of a call he made. And how
it really was not a good call, if you ask me. Oh, wow, I got a lot of outs. No, he doesn't. He has it's like 8 outs, that's never a good call.
And then Kim declares that he had the nuts, but it was actually just the nut straight.
No, not really.
And you can hear Gold say, no, not really. Oh, God.
That was I'll show the chip counts. And the bottom two, Waska and Lee, both make the final table. So they do kind of a flip ski.
Yeah, and Lee was in a sort of chip in a chair situation. Thought he had busted, but he actually had $500,000 left and manages to rally. Quite impressive, I think.
I agree, but you know what? I still felt that the 04 Final Two coverage was still my favorite Final Two table coverage of this era. The way they would flip back, I felt the most meaningful.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you that.
And we do see. I call it kind of the David Einhorn Jamie Gold charity hand, where Einhorn just kind of they both mention how we're playing for charity. It's all about my dad.
Yeah.
Don't save money. Again, kind of crossing that line a little bit because it's all going to charity anyway.
Yeah, Einhorn looks right at him and is like, why don't you join me in that? He's like, it's all going to my dad, sure, yeah.
Yeah. And then Einhorn blows through 4 million chips to Gold busting in, again, overplayed hand fashion.
Yeah.
Richard Lee, we do learn about how he had a dream that he won the main events.
Yep.
But the thing is, that's fun and all, but it doesn't tell us who he is as a person.
Yeah, I mean, we do the grandson segment is next episode, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, that gives him more a sense of who he is, but yeah, I mean, it's a nice little character moment.
We do lose Chef Sandro when he overplays pocket jacks, which would be a trend through the rest of this tournament going forward for sure. We get a pretty lame the nuts segments. With the dangers of poker, like paper cuts, suicide, knuckle injury. It's just really forced.
They needed something to fill in that time, yeah.
Big time. Thorson overplays jacks again. Again, losing with jacks. We do learn one thing about Paul Wassica, his addictive personality, how he jumps from one thing to the next.
Right, yeah.
We see Eric Freiberg finally kind of break the Jamie Gold curse on the table, win a hand against him. What'd he do?
Gold still is bragging about how many outs he has. It's like...
This is good odds for me.
Such good odds. You're diamond and he's out.
Yes.
Freiberg's convinced he has the flush when he calls, and he's like, why are you calling me good luck? Okay. This is great.
We do see the first kind of Jamie Gold, Alan Cunningham showdown, where Cunningham does win a good chunk of chips off of Jamie Gold. We do, the nickname that would stick for Michael Binger, the quantum scientist, theorem guy, and then...
He's got a doctorate, and they basically just make fun of him.
Yes.
This is very mean.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. and then we lose Lee Force, and then Fred Goldberg, he busts a player in 12th place, and it somehow goes out in 10th place still.
Because he tilts off his chips, that's why.
He does the old trying to steal from the button thing of Queen 3.
Well, he tries to bust Binger, right? Binger
Yes.
gets there on the river.
Yes.
You could tell he's tilted Goldberg because he was
Yeah.
like 75% of making the final table. So Queen 3, and in nice poetic fashion, Richard Lee has kings and busts.
I mean, is it perhaps the worst bubble for the final table blow of all time?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
at
think
final,
so.
at final 10, that's the worst of all time. I mean,
Because,
it's the single worst hand we've seen. Even we've seen people with 1.5 big blinds on the bubble, the final table with like A6.
yeah, I mean, Lusk was flipping when he shoved.
Yes.
So, and pocket 4 is in that spot. You're kind of trying to just force the other player out. So that's respectable. But Queen 3, like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even from the button, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're just so deep.
And then that concludes the build up to the final table, which again, I just don't feel we knew these players besides Gold at all at this point. I mean, Cunningham, we're kind of supposed to know at this point, so I'll give him a pass on that one, but we just don't know these people.
Yeah, I mean, we get a segment for Waska.
None of them got much poker focus, like their hands they played, or interviews on about the personality.
Freiberg, we got a little bit of. We saw some of, we saw him call against Lee Force in the previous episode.
I mean, they showed him with like 3 or 4 hands, maybe. Which would maybe
he was chipping up. He's had a pretty consistent stack, Freiberg.
I just feel like this is a lackluster final 9.
Yeah,
compared to 05 and maybe even 04.
Yeah. I mean, Gold.
I think 04 is my favorite. 04 is my favorite of these 4 years we've covered.
I mean, I just love Gold so much that it just might be enough in 06.
Top heavy.
I know. I mean, he's just such a great personality. I mean, just just the hands he plays, and just the segment where everybody just hates him and rips on him. I mean, it's just so funny.
That's a pretty good one. That's a fun segment where everyone just kind of, if it's just me and him, I'll totally win. Like they tear him apart. Like they have no respect for his game.
Yeah, I mean, Rhett Butler, who we don't see anything of despite he finishes in 5th place, his one moment the entire coverage is him saying, "I've seen cards before, I've never seen something like him." That's it. Just ripping on Jamie. It's so funny.
To my surprise, Alan Cunningham had a surprising number of chips in relation to Jamie Gold. He had about a little over 2/3 the stack that Gold had. So the lead was 8 million chips, which is a lot. But it's not an insurmountable lead like a Darvin Moon or a Joe McKeon that we would see in later years.
Yeah, it would have been possible for Cunningham to turn that around.
I mean, Gold had about 28.5% of the chips.
Mm-hmm.
Cunningham just under 20%. So again, one big hand and you flip spots.
But it was not to be.
It was not to be, but it was something I took note of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, we get the classic 2-part final table treatments. We have the first episode, 9 down to 5, and then 5 down to 1.
Yeah.
The standard. Besides, 04 was, for some reason, the one blip in that formula.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the eliminations were just kind of big hands running into a bigger hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Jacks usually versus queens, it felt like. So again, Gold has a huge lead. The blinds are 80K, 160K, and Dan Nassif begins as a short stack, and he's predictably the first one out. So, again, hard to be surprised by that. There's only so much you can do with about 15 big blinds, 16 big blinds.
Yeah.
And again, $1.5 million makes it feel a little better after you lose.
Absolutely, yeah.
There was a lot of limping, though, to my surprise. You don't usually see limping at the final table. I don't even recall really. I mean, limping was a common thread in a lot of these poker boom years, but not so much on the final table because usually you have a one big chip leader that would, crack down on that. Whether it's Raymer, whether it's Andy Black or Jamie Gold.
Yeah, I mean, I have to wonder if they just figured they just wanted to see as many flops as possible because they figured Jamie was playing any 2 cards and they wanted to sort of see a flop and try to beat him afterward. I have to wonder if that sort of played into it.
I mean, I kept a tally of kind of all the showdowns between Cunningham and Gold.
Yeah.
Allen loses the first round, but then wins round 2. Gold wins round 3, but then he would have lost had Cunningham stayed in the hand a little bit longer.
Right.
Richard Lee is kind of the only player to really have any success catching Gold's bluffs during this phase, but unfortunately he overdoes it, as these guys often do, and would bust in 6th place.
Yeah.
Again, Freiberg and Kim, I don't really have much to say with them. We saw Douglas Kim in literally one hand the whole time, that all in against Gold really early in the tournament, so it's kind of hard to really comment on him. Freiberg was kind of mentioned as kind of a young, up-and-coming pro from overseas, but I have never heard of him since.
Yeah, I mean, nothing came of Kim since. I've never heard the name Dan Nassif since. Richard Lee supposedly lost like $2.2 million in some, because he was like convicted of like some gambling offense in Texas or something.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. I think he was like running some sort of illegal casino or something. I couldn't quite follow it, but anyway, he lost a bunch of his money to that. So that's why we've never heard of him since.
Round 4 of the Cunningham Gold show, though, Cunningham makes a big call of Ace-9 high.
Oh, crazy, yeah.
I actually watched a Phil Hellmuth version of like the live coverage of this at one point.
Really?
Yeah, it was because the 06 main event was shown on pay-per-view live.
Yep.
I have no way of really watching that version of it now, but someone had spliced that hand with Hellmuth commenting on it, saying like, now Gold's gonna be afraid to bluff Cunningham the rest of the tournament. It's like, no, it's one hand. Gold ends this episode with 51 million chips, basically doubling his stack, and cutting his competition in half at this point. Richard Lee was the only player besides him to score an elimination. Cunningham kind of chipping down, not really getting the cards he needed to kind of stay in contention versus Gold.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was Wasika who knocked out Douglas Kim.
Oh, I thought it was...
No, it was Wasika.
Okay, excuse me. Well, so all but one elimination would be by Gold's hand, as you might expect of this giant chip set.
Yeah.
And then the final 5 down to 1, every single hand has Alan Cunningham or Jamie Gold in it, which really dulls down the screen presence of Binger, Wasika, Rhett Butler. It was frustrating for me watching this as a 14-year-old watching it on TV because I was rooting for Cunningham, of course, because that was my natural viewership inclination. Mm-hmm. And just to see him not be able to kind of get his footing, and then it's just him versus Gold the whole time. You're like, there's so much pressure. Why one of the other guys take on Gold and beat him? But
Wasika does step up to the plate and take on Cunningham, which is a pretty sick bluff, which he pulls off. And to be fair, I mean, Gold mentioned this in the commentary that like everybody had Cunningham's respect. Everybody loved Cunningham. We mentioned the segment about everybody hating Gold. There was also a segment everybody loved Cunningham.
Yes. You
want to knock the guy out. You want to get his short stack down.
Yes.
I don't blame Wasika for going after Cunningham.
No, I don't either.
I don't.
And you mentioned that this episode had the classic winners commentary covering the last episode. Mm-hmm. Gold definitely is more of kind of how Moneymaker did his episode, a bit more reactive to the episode.
Yeah.
He's also in more of the hands, so naturally you're going to hear from his thought process here and there. Mm-hmm. He definitely reacts more to what's on the episode than the last couple for sure, though.
Yeah.
Jamie Gold actually bookends this episode with Queen 9 in both the first and the last hand. Round 5 of the Gold Cunningham rivalry goes to Alan. Mm-hmm. The next hand goes to Alan again. And I'm sorry, not against Gold. Alan wasn't Cunningham. So it kind of felt like a foreshadow of Jerry Yang's kind of Final 5 vibe, where he would, the chip leader takes a few blows at Final 5 before cleaning things up.
But Gold was never really in harm's way. Like Yang, if he loses that last hand to Kravchenko or whatever, he would have been the short stack. Gold was never in that position.
Mm-hmm. Again, so round 6 goes to Gold, round 7 to Allen. That's the last hand that Allen pulls off against Gold. It's all Gold from there. Cunningham makes some good folds, but again, when you're at such a disadvantage, you really have to pick up hands at some point. Otherwise, it's not going to go your way.
Yeah, and in between all this, we're getting so much talk from Jamie Gold.
The more chips you get, it's talking chips. It's just Alan Cunningham correctly reads Gold with the 5 deuce though,
Crazy.
with top pair. Probably the best read Cunningham makes better than the ace high call earlier.
Yeah.
Top pair against a straight, you make a great fold. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier how Cunningham was the pro that the pros were rooting for. We get a brief appearance from Mike Matisow, who's standing in the background and says, "Of course we got the best hands. We got the best hands. Go Ellen! Go Ellen!"
I heard that. That was funny.
Great.
But ultimately, Gold busts Cunningham in a flip. Cunningham with the heavier side of the coin, but unfortunately out in fourth place.
And even though he's like 56% to win the hand, he's standing up, he's walking around, he's saying, "I'm puking." Jamie just flops it. Just so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly after this, we get the infamous flashing one card to your opponent hand, which is, again, outrageous. The top of the line of the worst things Gold did the whole tournament by far.
Everyone saw it. Jamie himself in the commentary, when Norm's saying like, "Oh, you could get a penalty," Jamie nods his head and says, "Very true." Like, he knew what he was doing was wrong. How did he not get a penalty? It's just so egregious.
And the funny thing is that he actually misread Binger's hand. He thought he had a stronger hand than what he had. He thought he had like a straight, and he was going to get him off a straight. Like, no, or like whatever trips or whatever. No. And then the next hand after that, was the big hand where Wasika folds a straight flush draw to an all-in and a call by Gold and Binger. Wasika would have won the hand had he stayed in, and that might have dramatically changed the dynamics of the heads-up play. But as is, I mean, you're gonna make $2 million if you fold. So
yeah,
I mean,
but he was second place in chips.
I know that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
So he had nothing to lose really.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Gold himself says, "I think Paul played it right," and then as the commentary continues, he talks himself into saying, "Actually, I changed my mind."
Well, so Gold and the commentary mentions how Matisow had mentioned, "Well, you were second anyway," so
yeah,
that changed his thinking about the hand in retrospect, which is fine. But we got a great Jamie Gold celebration that was just hilarious to me.
Just screams.
Yeah!
Even though Paul folds one of his outs, he still hits the straight. It's not like he hits two pair on the river. No, he turns Binger dead. So sick.
It's a luck box. What can I say?
Oh my god, the biggest luck box.
And then, as is the usual heads-up main event formula, the loser of the heads-up match wins the first hand shown.
Yep.
To kind of give the audience some false sense that it was an even match or that it was anyone's game.
It lasted 12 hands or something.
And then Gold busts him and he screams, "Yeah!" When Wasika makes a bad call with 2 10s on the queen high board.
Gold's acting, the worst acting, goes and looks at his cards like, come on.
My hand's not great, but I think I'm gonna win. It's like, I mean, I legit, if I was playing him, I just feel like I could read him. Like,
anyone can read him, yeah.
I just feel like the modern poker fan, poker player, poker pro against 06 Gold would be profitable long term.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, just...
But, I found this amusing that if you take into account the lawsuit Gold faced,
yeah,
Wasika made more money than Gold did.
Oh, yeah.
He made $100,000 more than what Gold made if you went down the middle, $6 million, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends on a very, very touching note that I actually had never seen before because I usually wouldn't just watch the credits or whatever. The very last bit, Gold had mentioned he told the table to be quiet. He calls his dad, who's still presumably asleep because it's late at night. So he leaves a message, saying, "Dad, I won." It's a very quick coda to the main event. But I think it's such a very kind of nice moment.
And then he goes to the payout cage and he says, "You see this guy, Crispin Laser? I'm taking all the money. Don't give any to him."
Now, I think we'll cover the Jamie Gold drama in the 07 main event because he does allude to it in some detail.
I am very sorry, everybody. I know I promised at the end of last episode that I would clear Jamie Gold's name. I did a little bit of research into it. I was not able to find the court transcripts, but I think that guy's guilty as sin. I do. I mean, I managed to find the transcript of the phone call that he left on Crispin Laser's phone, and he's like,
"Wow."
Yeah, I managed to find. It was just mentioned in a couple articles, and he said explicitly, like, "You're gonna get your share of the money. Don't worry. You've been with me this whole time. You're gonna get your money." he's guilty of sin. It's
funny because we'll get the Jamie Gold version of the story in his Spotlight episode No 7 main events.
Yeah.
Which I think is total fucking baloney, by the way. But it's just he wins the biggest prize in poker history up to this point.
Yep.
It's only been topped by high roller championships, not by main event.
Only 4 or 5 times it's been topped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wins $12 million. The man from Hollywood, as they keep trying to kind of allude to,
which probably wasn't true
either. I think it was true, though.
There was a Gawker.com article I found that came out in August.
Really?
From some unnamed sources who said that Jamie was just an intern or a junior agent in the office, and that he didn't actually.
Well, I guess kind of blowing it up for the sake of.
Supposedly, his only real client was Ron Jeremy, who was a porn star. That was it. Supposedly, I don't know.
You know what? He had the best Hollywood of poker acting in this main event. So
yeah,
one way or another.
Jamie's my favorite main event winner in terms of personality. I just love the guy. I'm sorry.
He's
so hilarious.
He's so arrogant and so bad at poker that's why he's so watchable. I mean, Helmuth, as arrogant as he is, he can back it up. He can back it up. Gold cannot. Whether it was in Poker After Dark, high stakes poker, main events going forward, he's just does not know what he's doing. Yeah,
and just the bragg. What's my favorite Jamie Gold quote? I can't think of just one. I mean, what's the difference to me? $3 million. I'm still your killer. It's just probably so arrogant.
You don't want me to call? If I call, I got you. The only real player to kind of get back to him was Umberto Brenes when he's like, "You can't bluff. It's your turn. You can't bluff. How can I bluff you if it's your turn?"
That's my favorite Jamie Gold moment. That's my favorite. Well,
my friend, a trick for you, my friend.
It's my favorite Jamie Gold moment in the main event because my favorite poker moment of all time is him against Sam Farha. Well, then check. Why would I check if I have you beat? So pure from Farha. Just a great moment.
All right, so you know what? Now that we've covered the whole 06 main event, I think I've come around a little bit. I still stand by that they were covering so many names more than years past in the same amount of time, and I still say that the final table players besides Gold were not entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
From a television point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, but
okay. What I would say is we know a lot about Gold. We know a lot about Cunningham.
Yes.
I'd say by the end of the last episode, we know a decent amount about Richard Lee.
Yes.
Decent amount.
I'll give you that barely. Setting the bar kind of low for that.
We know a little bit about Wasika.
We know one line about him. His background, that's it. His educational background, that's it.
I like him bragging at the end, if I have 10% of the chips against Jamie, I could win.
I mean,
that.
That's fine, but they were going to show him saying something at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we know just a touch about Wasika. We know just a touch about Bear. Yeah, and then Freiberg we get a touch of.
It's a touch, not a splash.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I do like what Kim says, and the everybody hates Gold montage, and everyone's giving him chips.
Mm-hmm.
He's lucky, but
I mean, I can name numerous final tables that I just have much more attachment to.
I do agree with you on that.
Including ones that are coming up in the next couple of main events.
Yeah, I do agree with you that on the whole, the final table is not as entertaining as it could have been. But Gold Cunningham as a conflict works for me, and just Gold being a braggadocious little, person is. And
the best characters for me of the whole main event would be Gold, Nobles, and Molina.
I'd agree with you.
Those are my favorite three. But really, there's a kind of a decent gap between those guys and the next sort of echelon of players I'd put in that bracket, as far as those that made it past a certain point.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I don't know. I like Lee Force. I thought he was, kind of funny and personable. And the moment where they announced that everyone's a millionaire, and Lee Force is crying, that was a touching moment. I thought that was a touching moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the most touching moments, like heartfelt moments. It has like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, quite a few.
It's definitely the top in that respect. But
Mm-hmm.
the poker play, I didn't really think that there were too many memorable hands. Like poker play, from a gameplay standpoint, there weren't too many memorable hands. There were a couple of Cunningham, Jamie Gold hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of it. I mean, you have Hank Azaria folding kings, entertaining. Joe Jackson makes quad twos,
mm-hmm.
entertaining. But for 12 episodes of poker,
mm-hmm.
I don't think we had 12 episodes of entertaining poker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you had some bad plays, but I don't think you had entertainingly bad plays.
Okay, that's fair. I really think it's the talk for me that carries. This was the year of the talkers.
I agree.
Yeah, that to me is what really carries this. I will acknowledge that if you're like a hardcore game purist, this is not the year for you because the play is not very good. If you're into just like big personalities clashing, Molina and Nobles.
But even then, these guys aren't even in the coverage until the back half.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think it's enough to carry it for me. I mean, if I had to rank the episodes, I was going back and forth between whether 05 was first or 06 was first. I think I might go with 05 being first.
I would agree with you. 05 being better.
Yeah, so I'd go probably 05, 06, 03, 04, I think.
I definitely put 04 at the bottom.
Yeah.
05 at the top. 03, it's close. It's closer than I thought it would be between 03 and 06.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have to sleep on this one. But I mean, 03 had. I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I would say 06 for me is better than 03 just because, again, the talkers are just.
There's some talk in 03 though. That's the thing. You had
Sam
Grizzle, you have Helmuth, you got there's some talk there still.
Yeah, I mean 03. I'm not trying to bash 03 by putting it below 06.
I mean, given that 06 they've now had 3 years to perfect the editing and the formula. I feel like it should be stronger by comparison, right? But I didn't feel that. So maybe on a curve, 03 is better.
Okay. I don't know if I give it a curve. I don't know. These are people who this is like their job.
I know.
Television,
I know. Yeah. But I didn't care for the nuts or the championship moments or a lot of the sort of side stuff that at least would get a smile or two here and there for me in years past.
Championship moments I did not care for at all once.
It's a negative.
There was just nothing there.
But at least there weren't any Player of the Year leaderboard stuffs.
Yeah, I mean, probably my favorite championship moments, if I had to guess, and this is just kind of a stretch, is, when Chris Ferguson was talking about, like, winning and losing and, like, his confidence or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's I guess my favorite moment, and even then didn't really register.
I mean, I appreciate the Stu one at least because he hadn't really been mentioned up until this point in any episode of the main event.
Yeah, and then, I mean, what was my favorite nuts segment? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. The nuts on a whole wasn't really that solid for this. And this was the first year without the Tell Me I'm Still Crying Over You montage.
Or the flushies. Yeah, it's a shame. No Blendman's Bluff, no, like, alternate game or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this puts a cap on the classic squared main events because from here on, a lot of things will be changing.
Yep.
The tournaments will be changing. The broadcast style will be changing.
Yep.
And the poker world would be forever changed.
Some qualities for the better, some qualities for the worse.
And some in the middle. So I guess that's it. We will see you guys in the 07 main events next time. Do look for us. Recently we were the first podcast to ever be blocked from 2plus2.com and pocketfives.com for trying to spread the word about this podcast, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, but do feel free to tell your friends about us. We have a Facebook page where we post each episode and a couple shout-outs that we've been getting in the universe.
Absolutely, and questions, comments. If anyone wants to join us for an episode or a segment, we're happy to have you on.
And if you ever see us playing poker or whatnot, Ben and I, I play like once a day or so, sit and goes or whatnot. Feel free to say hi to us. I am playing in the Mind Sports Olympiad poker event tomorrow, 5-card draw turbo poker. That's at 1:30. I have been playing in the Mind Sports Olympiad poker events.
Where is this?
The Mind Sports Olympiad?
Yeah.
So it's an annual thing. They usually do it in London, but this year they're doing it online because of COVID.
Uh-huh.
So I did the Hold'em event on Friday. I got 18th place.
Out of how many?
A couple hundred.
Oh, wow, pretty good.
Yeah, and then Omaha, I got 74th place. That was like 300 or so.
Is that just for fun?
You get a medal if you win.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
you get a medal for each event, and then they do like best of 5 sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So and they sort of smash your results together. Last year I did this, I got 5th overall.
Oh, wow. I never knew about this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's free, by the way, so you could do it if you wanted to.
I'm not able to play tomorrow, but
yeah,
but that sounds very cool.
Yeah, you can register online. So I'll be doing the 5-card draw event tomorrow. That's at 1:30, and then I'm also going to do the 7-card stud event. That's on Friday the 20th.
And you know what? If anybody beats Sam in a pots, have a screenshot of the hand, send it to us, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode.
Yep, that's those events are at 2:30. So feel free to stop in if you can.
Man, I can't wait to hear about how that goes next time.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Well, we'll sign off now. We'll see you guys next time, and as the second half of the classic poker dynasty commences.
Yeah. See you next time.